Hey everybody, welcome back to Sophisticakes by Mary. This tutorial is going to be a very unique one. For this cake, I thought I would try to make some agate slices and also add that to a rustic textured, natural inspired colored fondant wrap. I added a lot to this, so to make this wrap, I took scrap pieces of fondant and let them sit out for, at least 3 hours at room temperature just to get kind of a crust on the outside. That's how we're going to get this kind of crackly texture to them. That when you roll out that skin that they develop, the outside crust of them, that is where the texture comes from. It's actually fairly easy to do. But since that is sitting out, we're going to go ahead and make our agate slices. Now, this is kind of inspired by, I've been watching some polymer clay jewelry videos, and it's kind of inspired me. So you'll see it in this one and then another video coming up soon too. So I'm layering up these pieces of fondant. I did add some Tylose to them so that they would firm up for me a little faster. And I rolled them in different thicknesses because I wanted to have kind of those striations in the circular pattern around the crystal centers of these. So I just added a little water and just wrapped it right around. And I'm going to do this multiple times with all the different colors. And I did 3 different sizes of them. I'm going to show you just this one, but I did the same thing, the same technique for the other ones. And all you need is water to get these to stick together. This probably looks like a hot mess right now, but you'll see where it's coming together in a minute here. And then I wanted to add some gold, so I used some of my Barnabas gold that I will add a link in the description. I'll try to add a tag or a card on here also where you can purchase your own, and I have an affiliate link that you can use to purchase it. And I just attached that with water again and just wrap it around it, and that is going to, when you cut it and roll it out, that is going to add a little touch of gold. Like I said, I did this with 3 different ones, 3 different rolls, and I just set them aside for, again, another couple of hours so that it firms up a little bit. But you don't want to wait so long that when you roll it out, it gets too crackly on you. And isn't this to me is kind of a little bit of ASMR watching this slicing. Leave them about 1/4 of an inch thick to 1/2 an inch thick, because you're going to roll it out, and that's when it's going to give you that kind of drawn out rings, and your edible gold leaf will kind of pop out. It's kind of cool how this works out. Now, I haven't actually seen anybody do this with fondant, but so it was kind of an experiment, but I was very happy with the results. And leave them slightly irregular. Makes it look a little bit more natural. And I'm just attaching this rock candy with some piping gel. And then I added a little bit of your clear sugar crystals by Wilton to add some extra dimension. And then I'm just edging them out with some gold paint, which is gold luster dust mixed with Everclear. Is how I like to do it, but you can use vodka or lemon extract. All of them work. And then just paint it on the outside edge of your rock candy and your sugar crystals. And there's going to naturally be some texture if you are painting on top of where that texture already is with the sugar. And then I put a little bit of gold on the outside edge of each of them. You could add more gold if you wanted to, but I figured there was a lot going on with the different rings. So I just kind of left it with just not much gold on the outside edge, just around the very edge. And there I am adding some vegetable oil. That's going to add some sheen and brighten up, or it just adds a little bit of shine to the whole thing. And just for an extra added touch, I used some rainbow disco dust and a little bit of silver disco dust. Just on the crystals, just to get a little bit more light reflection, because you can't really see the rock candy, the clear rock candy when you leave it clear. So you got to add something to give some shimmer. And that disco dust works really well. And now that these have set out, I'm going to roll them just a little bit more to get that crackle effect going on. And try to remember at this point not to roll anything too thin, because you're going to be rolling it all together and you don't want to roll right through your fondant. You want to leave a little bit of playroom with your thickness. And now I'm just merging some different pieces together. I was just kind of going for a natural, just kind of merging them together. For this one, I didn't have an end goal in mind necessarily. I just kind of rolled with it, no pun intended, and kind of went with what I got. But I didn't want to do any bright or any too contrasting colors, because the agates themselves have quite a bit of color. It needed to be more neutral, but I wanted you to see it too. So that's why I could have gone with just all of that latte color and the white or some ivory, but I wanted to add a little bit of something, so that's why I went with the marbled gray in there too. And then I just added some sugar crystals on there to add a little bit more texture. I just added these or glued these on with just a little bit of water, both the fondant pieces and the sugar crystals. Sometimes you need a little bit of cornstarch to keep your roller from sticking. You can always brush the extra cornstarch off or steam it off. Either one works once you get the fondant on the cake. But for now, we just need to worry about rolling it out and not sticking everything to itself. Itself? I just made up a word. I guess you basically just don't want a sticky mess. Make your life easier, not harder. And roll this down to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And if you need to transplant some pieces from one place to another, you can move it around. That's just fine. And I knew how tall and how tall the cake was in the circumference, so I knew how much to cut off. I just put a little shortening on the cake. This cake had been in the refrigerator and it was chilling, so I can actually use my hands, clean, dry hands, just to kind of work that shortening on. You can use water if you prefer. Shortening for me works a little bit better in a lot of cases, just because if you mislocate, another word I just made up, if you put your fondant in the wrong spot, you can take it off and move it around again. You're not committed as much as when you use water. And then I'm just gonna rip off those edges, make them uneven, just to go with the more natural feel again. And this end piece, I'm not cutting that off this time. I'm leaving it. It just kind of curled up on itself, and I just used some toothpicks to prop it up and some paper towels just to keep that shape in there. And I actually left it in the refrigerator overnight in that shape before I removed those toothpicks. But I thought that the colors had a little bit too much variation, a little bit too obvious of difference in the colors. So I am doing a whitewash, which is just white food coloring. And I put a little bit of Everclear in there. I'm just brushing it on and just removing the extra. And I do go back later and you'll see again that the next day I still, because it kind of oxidizes overnight and adds some depth of color as it sits. And it was still a little bit too deep of a color for me. So I did go back and add some more. This is the next day, and I'm just twisting those toothpicks out. Instead of pulling them out, just kind of spin them out. And here is where I'm adding some more of that whitewash. My other challenge was how to incorporate that turquoise and the teal colors into the rest of the cake so that it kind of makes more sense. So my boss actually suggested, how about if you just edge it out with some of it? So I thought, oh, that's brilliant. I'll just add a little bit on the edges and then kind of vein it through a little bit on the edges of these pieces. And then I did end up going back and adding a little bit of gold in there as well. Kind of mix the two together. I don't know where the footage of me putting the gold on went, but you can kind of see it there. It was the same technique. And I'm just attaching these agate slices with just a little bit of buttercream. And on the bigger piece, I do believe there was a toothpick behind it. Oh yeah, that one right there, you can see there's a toothpick behind it just to anchor it a little bit better. And if you do that, just make sure that you communicate with your customers that there are inedible objects in there so that they're not surprised by a piece of wood splinter in their teeth. Just make sure that they know. I mean, if you want to try to debate with gravity and try to get it to work, go right ahead. But I don't like to take chances. And I added a little bit, some more of the rock candy, and I wanted to add a little bit more shimmer. Now, this didn't show up so good in the pictures and in the video. There was a lot more shininess in person. But I added a little bit of Everclear in there and some of the edible dust and just kind of shook it up together. Just to get it coated. And there you can see it. And I'm just using a little buttercream to attach them. You could just use piping gel if you want to. I wanted it to be kind of standing up, going up the cake a little bit. So I didn't think the piping gel would add enough volume underneath the rocks, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I wanted more mounds instead of just a few pieces laying around. And I added a little bit on top just for good measure, just to be cohesive again. And there it is, guys. I hope you liked it. This one's a little bit different. I like the differentness of it. And I really like this technique with the agate slices. I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm very pleased. I hope you're pleased. I hope you liked it, and I hope you decide to give it a try. Do it in different colors. You can do it however you want. And if you do, send me pictures on Instagram. Love to see your work. And I want to give a huge shout out to D4844 for your super thanks. Your generosity is so very much appreciated. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. And if you'd like to watch some other videos, go ahead and click on the link to one of these other videos shown here. And if you would like to check out my other social media, I am on Facebook and Instagram under the same name, Sophisticakes by Mary. And please take the time to share, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload another video. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next tutorial.